So I am not such a lonely homeschooling mom of little kids that I'm thinking of Mr. Rogers. On the sweater, I'm thinking of Jeff actually. Would you please join me in a prayer? Just one more. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thank you. That prayer was for me. I know my tribute to our beloved friend is going to fall short. So now you're going to feel compelled to forgive me. Jeff always said that flannel was a great color on me. So, since early Saturday morning, in prayer and in tears, and while hiking with my dog Theo, my thoughts kept turning to how and not why. Because that question can lead down an abysmal black hole. So don't ask why. I started asking how. How can I ever thank God for Vacation Bible School? Because in the summer of 1991, I was a very young mother with an adorable daughter, and I was a new arrival to a very small parish on the lake, Prince of Peace. Our pastor thought that I needed to plug in, so he suggested that I go to Vacation Bible School. So obediently, I went after morning mass to the nursery, because that's where every mom goes for a 13-month-old baby. I was extraordinarily blessed with a priceless treasure in a pretty petite package with a pink bow, literally a pink bow in her hair. How generous is our God, because my treasure doubled with Lisa's other half, Jeff Spillane. The next question of how was how would my husband, who lived in flannels and overalls and work boots, relate to Jeff? Because I had only seen him once at Mass, and he was so handsome in that suit and tie. I wondered how were they going to hit it off. So they came over for dinner. Jeff did not come in the handsome suit and tie. I honestly remember he showed up in jeans and a flannel shirt. He probably had a hunting knife in his pants. And the question was answered like that, and the adventures began. Fairly soon, the question for Lisa and I was how to keep our husbands' attention on their jobs for our livelihoods, in between all the hunting trips, the fishing trips, the camping trips, the mission trips. Gary and I are blessed to be the parents of 8 precious children. Jeff and Lisa have been around for 7 of those pregnancies. And by pregnancy number 4, I was beginning to show the miles, okay? So some of us beautiful moms out here, sometimes we say we feel like a house. I was more like a multi-family mixed-use development. But every pregnancy, this is all truthful, every pregnancy Jeff would start out, "Hey, Pate, you look swell. How's your leg? How's it feel to be pregnant again? How many more children do you think you and Gary will have? Do you think Lisa and I will ever catch up?" So the next town was like, "Hey, Jeff, how would it be if I strapped a 15-pound sandbag around your waist? I inserted that little hunting knife between your lower vertebrae, asked you to educate my children, and then feed us too. How do you think I feel, you knucklehead?" So Jeff learned pretty soon. He learned that all I'd have to do was like raise an eyebrow and he came near me. And then he would just laugh and stop and go off and bother someone else. So I love this because when I wrote my husband's eulogy, Father Neil was like, Patty, it's got to be spiritual, whatever. This is fun. Tributes are fun. So I just got a few funny ones. Okay, so here's a question that I would want to ask Jeff. Jeff, how is it possible that you and Gary could get on the Ferris wheel at the Cumming County Fair with 5 children? You exit with 4, and you think that's all right. This is true as well. How can you think, for a homeschooling experience, that those precious girls right there would want to find recent roadkill, gut and skin it with you, tan the hides, crudely sew some type of moccasin like as a fashion statement? I wanted to say, buddy, like that's why you really moved to Dawsonville, the outlet mall. They sell shoes. And remember, like if you're 35 years or older in this group, you remember Green Acres? Okay, like Jeff, how did you miss the fact that it's a comedy? We felt sorry for Jaja, right? We laughed at Eddie Albert. This was the last big question, though. Jeff, how do you think camping with lots of little children who want to eat campfire ashes, roll in poison ivy, practice drowning, how is that a vacation? At one point, Lisa and I had 10 children under the age of 10 between us. But we went because we couldn't stay away, because we loved him. We all survived and we thrived from those wonderful seasonal campouts with so many beautiful folks that are here. Hordes of little campers jacked up on sugar from s'mores. They don't pass out until midnight, and then, God forbid, they awaken at like the birdsong sunrise. Speedboats passing the campsites. I recall that Jeff and Gary, they would wander over to the Lopez cabin. Marcia's daughters were already a little bit older, so they probably didn't need to be fed in the morning. Well, Marcia was running like this 3-star Michelin camp tent breakfast. I'm like trying to find the cooler for like boiled eggs and the Costco muffins. And I could just hear Jeff, Gary, Nicolas, Marcia, everybody laughing, having such a good time. If Jeff could track it, trap it, spear it, lure it, hook it, shoot it, Jeff was game, and his infectious enthusiasm drew us all along for the adventures. I've known Jeff for half my life, but I realize in a way I've known him, and we've all known Jeff since our childhoods because we heard his laughter as he floated down the Mississippi River with Tom Sawyer. His handsome face was reflected in the campfire light of Lewis and Clark's expedition. He crossed that Cumberland Gap into Kentucky, and he settled Boonesboro with Din Laboon. What a generous God to share such a pure heart with us. There's a poem, "A boy's will is the wind's will, and the thoughts of youth are long, long thoughts." Jeff never ceased those thoughts of adventure and discovery, even amidst the responsibilities of raising such a precious family. And I know that's just one of the reasons why I love him. Jeff gives me hope. 5 years ago, on the Sunday after Thanksgiving, there was a special healing mass celebrated for my husband. The symptoms of his disease were just emerging, and Jeff and I stood outside St. Luke, and he asked me, how are we going to live without Gary? And I couldn't speak. As my husband's ALS silenced his voice and robbed him of the ability to swallow, his life became increasingly isolated. Because humans love to eat, and they love to talk, and they love to eat and talk together. But Jeff's question then quickly became, how can I help you? And there were truckloads of firewood that you precious boys split with your dad. and dropped off. There were boxes of Paul Thomas chocolates for the girls. The not so famous mozzarella cheese that we would bring. Gary's decline just didn't scare Jeff. He walked beside him and he walked it through. He would drive up once a week. He would pick up Gary. They would attend Holy Mass together and then they'd come home. Gary would make him a cappuccino that he couldn't drink. We'd all sit around. We'd laugh and we'd scheme. We'd reminisce. And then when the kids returned to their studies upstairs, because no one could stay away from Uncle Jeff. Excuse me. Jeff would sit with Gary, just quietly on the sofa. And once I felt like such an interloper. But he prayed aloud that God would heal his friend. And if not, that God would make him strong to see him go. 5 years later, on this past Sunday, it's the Sunday after Thanksgiving, I stood outside St. Luke and I asked God a different question. How do we live without Jeff? How could Jeff have planned this when sometimes he struggled to plan his day? I had so many awesome phone calls from Lisa. Is my husband there? Is he with Gary? Could you send him home? He has forgotten he has. Jeff did not plan this. Jeff would not plan this because he never wanted to leave you. Now we have to ask not why, but how can we help? To honor our friend, who, as the Irish say, has a heart as big as his head, we need to love what he treasured most, family and his faith in Christ Jesus. Jeff, you slipped away, you little rascal. Early in the morning, we went to find Gary, and you've joined Marcia. And I feel like when Lisa and I arrive, there should be like a reckoning. But he's going to flash that smile, and he's going to sound that mirthful laugh, and all will be well again. Because Jeff is the best of men and the best of friends.